All right, we'll call to order this meeting, January 3rd, 2017, at the East Hampton Planning Board. Is there anyone here to speak to anything that is not on the agenda tonight? All right, moving on to our Planning Board minutes from the December 20th meeting. Anybody have any corrections? I had a couple minor ones, but anybody else?
I didn't have any changes.
All right, I think in paragraph 3, I just think that it's a Mullen affidavit, right?
Mm-hmm.
I put that on here, and then I just wanted to clarify on page 5, I'll give you these notes, but it was the question about whether they have to go to the zoning board, and I think it was if there was a sign variance, if they were seeking one. So I just put a note in about that.
Okay.
But that's all I have.
So if you wouldn't mind
Yeah.
passing those down so you can make the corrections. Thank you.
I motion to approve the minutes from December 20th with the 2 mentioned changes.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? No abstaining. All right. Moving on to the continued public hearing for Cumberland Farms. How are we doing? Please.
Good evening again. For the record, my name is Thomas Murphy, a partner with the firm of Murphy McCoubrey in Springfield. Here representing Cumberland Farms and First Hartford and the development that you've heard about. And as you are aware, we had the traffic engineer here last visit, and Mr. DeStefano from Bowler is here, the engineer. He's not going to pull out those plans unless you need to. But the primary purpose was to bring some operational people from Cumberland Farms to answer some of the questions that were raised by some of your members. So I have with us tonight 2 operational people. One is Tom Kolpak, who's the regional manager, and the other is Kevin Rizzo, who's the area manager. And the difference is the regional manager has 72 of these facilities, and the area manager has 12. I'm going to ask Tom Kolpak to come up at first and to be available to answer your questions. But again, Kevin, who is next to him, will come up afterwards, and he'll be the person who will be in charge of this particular facility. So, and Mr. Kolpak will be in charge of all of them, but.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. So,
So we had a few issues. I think largely just trying to figure out about policies and controls and what happens. I think the first one was with respect to cleaning up the waste. There was some concern. You know, some of us went to the site visit. It's a open area. You start dropping chip bags and things. They all start blowing around. What sort of process or procedures you guys follow at the?
yeah, we do it continuously, pretty much all day. We do what we call them 10-minute walks around the property, the outside, the exterior, the pumps, around the perimeter of the property. We also have landscapers that come every week, you know, and they take care of all the shrubs, all the bushes, all the landscape. And they do a deeper dive as far as the trash goes. Like if something blows to the fence, you know, we obviously pick it up.
Yeah.
You know, we put trash cans out at each pump, in front of the doors. One, if we have an air machine, we usually have one by the air machine and a vacuum. We try to have as many trash receptacles as possible to limit that, because we do know, you know, people tend to just throw it out of their car if they're not given a spot to put it. So.
The 10-minute walk, that's not every 10 minutes, is it?
No, it's
it
10
takes
minutes.
10 minutes?
It's called a 10-minute walk because it takes about 10 minutes to get it done.
Okay.
We do it like once an hour.
Okay.
So, you know, so it's kept up with all day.
Okay, and that's somebody walking the parking lot. That's not going to be, you know, 15 feet off into the grass, but they'll walk the...
Yes, right.
Okay.
They'll go out, they'll check the trash receptacles, make sure they're not full, because even when they get full, people still try to stuff
Yeah.
as much as they can in there, it blows out. So that's the process we use. We kind of, you know, we know it's a problem, so we try to stay on top of it.
I'm amazed by that number. Once an hour for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
A 10-minute walk. Wow, that's
There's a few other things that's on that walk too, but the primarily the trash receptacles in the outside. It's tough. There's a lot of trash that people just throw out of their cars.
Jim, did you have other questions about that, or is that?
Well, my big one was how often, and you just answered that.
And how about you, other Jim? Sounds all right.
That pretty much answers my concern.
Okay. The other one we were talking about was the music or the audio from the displays on the pumps and how you sort of regulate that.
So we've eliminated the audio from the displays and the pumps.
Okay.
What we actually have is we have it's similar to Sirius. It's not Sirius, but so we do have some speakers outside that are in the canopy, not in the canopy, but that come down through the canopy and on the pumps. We don't run ads, but they'll run music, and it's completely controllable by the interior of the store.
Yeah.
So if someone said it was too loud, we can turn it down. You know, it depends on the environment that we're operating in. So.
Do you have policies for sort of the volume, or is it really kind of like squeaky wheel, whoever complains and they turn it down?
Well, we do have a policy, and we set it at a certain number. I think the number is 4.
Yeah.
In communities where we have, I'm going to use Southampton as an example, there's some apartments across the street, you know, we shut it off
Right.
outside. So, you know, that's how we do it. So it's not overbearing.
Yeah.
We realized, like, with the running ads at the pumps, it was like it blared, it was too loud, so we kind of went to the other system.
I think one of the concerns we've had, I mean, it's sort of put down in, I mean, it's the highway business district, but along there's a lot of wetlands and stuff, and we've talked a lot about, you know, shielding the lights and that kind of stuff and keeping that out of the wetlands, and the idea of the audio was one of the other concerns. Sort of, I mean, there aren't really a lot of neighbors around there probably in the evening, at least not human neighbors, but there are other things living out there, and so the idea of minimizing that impact.
Yeah.
Did you say that it was audio only, there's no video component?
Correct. It's audio only. There's stuff that flashes on the screen, but it's completely separate. They're just like little ads, and it doesn't say, there's no audio to those ads that are on the pumps. So,
Do you think if somebody was walking on the sidewalk in front of your place, that they could actually hear that when they're getting gas in the pumps?
it would probably depend on the time of day. I'm going to be completely honest with you. During the daytime, probably not. If they're walking around, you know, at 10 o'clock at night and there's nothing going on,
Right.
they would hear it.
Okay.
You know, I don't think it would carry too far beyond the property lines because
Yeah.
it's not that loud. Matter of fact, I've noticed at times that when I go to stores, I could be pumping gas and say I'm on Memorial Drive, I can't hear it.
Yeah.
You know, but we have neighbors right behind Memorial Drive too, so we've had to, you know, I say our company says we put the speakers at 4. At Memorial Drive, we have them at 2.
Yeah.
You know, so that it doesn't carry beyond the fences and bother our neighbors. So we're very aware of that.
Yeah, I'm just
Try to
thinking
work.
here, I mean, it's not a situation where we're gonna get a complaint from a neighbor, right? So it's,
Right.
it's trying to figure out a way to do that.
Yeah, it's-
I mean, maybe it's just a matter of treating it that way, where it's as though you have neighbors on the side, but.
Yeah, I mean, we're flexible. You know,
Yeah.
like I said, I mean, you know, we're in Southampton. You know, we have neighbors there, and we're very cognizant of that. We don't want to disturb them.
Right.
You know, so.
Were there other issues?
I think it was delivery times.
Like delivery.
Delivery
Question that
times.
you
Delivery
raised last
times
time.
is the last one.
That's another thing we're very flexible about. Some sites that I have, you know, we have restrictions. There's certain times in West Springfield on the Rotary, I can't get deliveries during the day. I have to get them at night because of the traffic on the Rotary. Other places, other stores that I have, we can't get deliveries overnight because there's neighbors there. And we're in neighborhoods. Like I'm thinking of Leominster is one in particular. We have, you know, some residentials right next to us. We can't get deliveries overnight, so we're flexible on when we can receive deliveries.
Is all of your stuff, do you distribute it yourselves, or are there third-party vendors, or how?
We have all the drivers, so all our groceries that we get from our warehouse are delivered by Cumberland Farms. Now, we obviously have Coke, Pepsi, Frito-Lay, you know, the usual vendors. Gas is delivered by our own drivers. They pick up from the New Haven terminal. Once in a while, we use a third party for gas, but not very often. So, you know, we work with whatever's required. You know, we work within the guidelines and what's asked of us.
Right.
Because
I mean, I think the way that it came up was we were talking about the sort of traffic and the parking lot flow and that kind of thing, which if there is that flexibility, I think you would have the same interest in, as anybody else in avoiding that,
Well,
but,
it had to do with the dumpster removal. So, right, if I'm remembering correctly, the two
Yeah.
spaces in front of the dumpster.
trash
and
removal is one of
what
them,
the-
too.
What the timing would be on that, if I'm remembering correctly.
that was another one. So the trash is, you're not removing your own trash, right? But
No,
there's some
no,
flexibility.
we have a hauler,
Yeah.
and they come usually twice a week for both trash and cardboard, 'cause we have two separate dumpsters.
Yeah,
It's a local facility, or is it your own?
You know, it depends on pricing. I can't tell you it's gonna be someone local or it's gonna be a national account. They put it out to bid, and it becomes a, you know, price is a big to do with trash hauling. So what we do usually, they usually pick up between the hours of, you know, maybe 8 and 4, 8 and 3, 7 and 3. They're not usually, you know, it's not usually a big problem. Sometimes, like, if we have employees that park, I know I've parked in that spot in front of the dumpster area, and, you know, they just, we see them come, and we go out and move the cars, so.
so would those spots be designated as employee parking, or was it just the plan that they would park there?
Correct,
That you would mark them as employees only,
that's correct.
and then they would sort of deal with it?
They're usually crossed out, you know,
Yeah.
as a loading zone. And usually that's what happens is employees will park there because then we're not tying up parking spaces
Yeah.
within the, you know,
Okay,
That makes me feel better about that.
that
our
makes a lot more
customers.
sense.
So,
So the other questions I could, I don't know if there needs to be.
I mean, I don't,
I'm comfortable with those answers.
I mean, we're not, you know, I live here in East Hampton.
Yeah.
I've been here my whole life, except for maybe when I went to college and a couple of years after, so, you know, I'm here, I live here, I see Jesse down at the ballpark and at the park and stuff, so I mean, if we had problems, I mean, we're not coming into the community to create problems, you know, we're trying to make a better environment and have a nice store there, so, you know, if there was, music was too loud, I mean, we can, you know, we can turn it down,
Yeah.
we can shut it off, I mean, you know, deliveries, we can work with whatever works best. We don't want to have an 18-wheeler in the middle of our parking lot at our busiest time of day, either,
Right.
you know, because it screws up our traffic as well and our customers, so.
you guys have any other questions?
No, but I think it bears reiterating that an interesting dynamic in the volume issue, and I think I'm sort of agreeing with you that your 4 setting volume is probably reasonable and not a big deal, but interesting dynamic is it may not be humans
Right.
that are there to complain, it's the peepers, it's the environmental factor that we need to just be aware of
Oh, yeah,
because
yeah.
of the wetlands.
I completely understand, yeah. So,
Mary, any questions? Planning Department, any questions? No? All right, thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicants, guys? Is there anybody else here who has any comments or questions?
We actually do have one other thing that we need to talk about, and
Yep.
I know that Tom had contacted
right.
me prior to the holidays regarding the drainage easement aspect of it.
Oh, yes.
And so if you can just,
Right, I'm
Give us an
sorry, I should
update
have
on
brought
that.
that up. I called Jessica that after our last meeting, there was a great deal of discussion with regarding the timing of the easement and the approval and process, whatnot, and I'm informed, although I haven't spoken personally to Dave Boyle, who's here tonight, but that there was a meeting subsequent to that, and Mr. Boyle has agreed to give the drainage easement property to the process. So there won't be any easement required. It'll be owned by, in this case, First Hartford will be the landowner. So there's not going to be the need for any drainage easement. It should be done, and I know there's a Conservation Commission meeting on Monday. So there should not be any. I
So
just
the
want
property owner will now own the entire area where the drainage occurs? Okay,
so that'll eliminate that complexity.
okay.
Where is that sale in process? Has that occurred already? Is that?
That's at a higher level than.
Yeah, it hasn't occurred yet,
Yeah.
Okay.
but we will be talking to our attorneys tomorrow.
Yeah.
Really?
For the long and short of it, that happens after the approval.
Yep.
well,
mean, we
and
can-
quite frankly, the A&R will be coming to the board for approval, so you'll notice
Yeah.
You'll note that when the A&R comes before you.
But we can also just make that a condition, right? I mean, that,
Yeah, you can make a condition, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Or would be easement.
Okay, so now I'll ask, is anybody else? Yes, sir. Good, how are you?
Ian Hagan from Highland Avenue. Just a quick question. I mentioned at the last meeting. I just assume if you're going to approval on the signs, that none of the signs are they're all within what's allowed in that zone. There's no excess height.
There's no request for any variance on the sign ordinance.
That's what I meant. So
yeah.
nothing you would approve.
Right.
I know it has to go to
It's
the
not
zoning
this
board.
board.
Right.
So
I
it's-
realize that. I
yeah,
just, but
if
you know
it's-
what,
if
I haven't
it's-
really seen the final plans. I know they're
Yep.
available.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen them. I just, that's been my one concern. I know.
And I've spoken to Dan, I don't anticipate a request for a variance.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Anybody else have any other comments? All right, should we go through these special permit criteria real quick, just so we can make sure we're covering all this stuff? We got conformance with the provisions of the ordinances of the city of East Hampton, the general laws of Massachusetts, and the applicable rules and regulations of state and federal agencies. I think we've covered that. Anybody else disagree? Protection of city amenities and abutting properties through the minimizing of any detrimental or offensive uses or destruction of unique or important natural, scenic, or historic features on the site. And we addressed the drainage issue. I don't think there's anything in the way of destruction of unique or important natural, scenic, or historic features that we saw. Minimization of traffic and safety impacts, the proposed development on adjacent highways and roads, maximizing the convenience of safety, vehicular and pedestrian movement within the site. Talked about that at length, and also there's still the approval from the state for the entrance and exit, right? So that's going to have to be approved regardless of what we say. Stop me if you have any questions or comments, all right, Harry? Adequacy of the methods of disposal of sewage and refuse. We talked about the trash, drainage of surface and subsurface water. We've addressed adequate means of protecting wetlands, watersheds, and aquifers and well areas. We did that with the drainage and the noise. Mitigation of adverse impacts on the city's resources, including the effect on the city's water supply and distribution system, sewage collection and treatment systems, fire protection, and streets. I think the minimal impact on those things. Provision for the off-street loading and unloading of vehicles incidental to the normal operation of the establishment. We discussed that. There's plenty of space in the lot, and they have flexibility on the schedule. Parking, lighting, and internal traffic controls. We've covered that both for safety and also protecting the outside areas, I think. Efforts to integrate the development to the existing landscape through design features such as vegetative buffers and retention of open space or agricultural land. We discussed that. I think the plans sort of walked that line with the line of sight safety issues and the protection of the property. Consistency of the development with respect to setback area, placement of parking, architectural style, landscaping, the surrounding buildings. I don't think we have any issues with that to address. Adequacy of the measures to prevent pollution of surface, subsurface, surface, or groundwater to minimize erosion and sedimentation, to minimize changes in groundwater levels, increased runoff, and potential for flooding. I don't think we had any issues with that. And adequacy of the methods to ensure the use will not constitute a nuisance by reason of unacceptable level of air or water pollution, excessive noise, or visually flagrant structures and accessories. I think we talked about that. That's a highway business zone, and we've got some of those environmental factors, but nothing else that I saw. Anybody else have any other thoughts or comments, questions?
Should we go through the conditions?
Yeah, let's look at those conditions. So, there were a few that we discussed last week. Obviously, the applicant will meet the standards set by the East Hampton Conservation Commission and their order of conditions and stormwater permit. I don't think anybody objects to that. Applicant shall provide at least one bike rack on site for use by employees and customers of the project. We discussed that. I think everyone was agreeable to that. There was a proposal from the peer review engineer for a prepare and submit an as-built survey of post-construction site conditions, stamped by a professional land surveyor with an affidavit of site compliance from the professional engineer of record, confirming the construction was completed in accordance with all drawings, specifications, and permit conditions. and that all site elements are functioning as designed and described. Documents will be submitted to the city engineer in PDF and AutoCAD format.
It's very specific.
The applicant have any objection to that? I mean, I think that's pretty straightforward, right? Were there any other conditions that anyone?
I'd like to propose adding a number 4, that the drainage easement property belong to the owner. Not quite sure how we word that. Groundbreaking, or I don't know what the timing and when that would need to occur.
Well, I mean, I think we could make it as a condition for a building permit, right? That they either have obtained a drainage easement or ownership of the property, or?
That's what we were just talking about.
Yeah, I mean, the last draft decision I gave you at the last meeting discussed the
easement, right?
well, it discussed the easement in the description of the project and in the findings, and
But
in this
not as a
current draft, I
condition?
took it out because there's no drainage easement, it's just gonna be
They're
part of
gonna
it,
purchase
so.
the property.
So, just trying to think of the best way to word it. That may be something like prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant will have an approved or an endorsed A&R plan by the planning board, including the back land for drainage purposes, something like that.
I think you did really well there. That was very good.
Read it back to me, because I don't know what I just said.
Good luck.
Anybody write that down?
She did.
Oh, you really want me to?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I thought you were being sarcastic. Prior to the issuance of the building permit, the applicant will have endorsed by the planning board, including backland for drainage purposes.
And A&R.
Did I miss something?
That's okay, you missed A&R, but that's okay.
A&R, where was that?
So, so prior to issuance of building permit, applicant will have an endorsed A&R, or have an
I
A&R.
guess we'll submit for endorsement or something.
Will submit
Like that better.
for endorsement a revised or a new A&R, help me, anybody.
An
Anyway.
A&R reflecting that they've purchased the backland.
A&R,
Well, there has to be an A&R regardless for the lot.
I know, reflecting,
So it will just show you.
including, reflecting,
the drainage requirement.
including the drainage requirement.
Full depth. Yep. I think you can word it in that regard, that the applicant will be taking the full depth of the property.
Full depth of property,
Okay.
I like that.
Excellent.
Thank you.
All right, I'll wordsmith it
Okay.
tomorrow, but that's the general essence of it, okay.
The only other condition we talked about last time, but I think we determined we didn't need it because the Conservation Commission does, is the stuff with the stormwater plan and the
Right, so
reporting
that's
on
why
annual cleaning.
that's why the first condition says the applicant will meet the standards and conditions set by the East Hampton Conservation Commission under the applicable order of conditions and local stormwater
Right.
permit. So
So
it just
they're gonna be-
references their permit.
That's their jurisdiction anyways.
It's just their jurisdiction,
Yeah,
it
okay.
references it, so I feel comfortable that at least it's in this permit, but it puts, the language will be in that permit.
Excellent. Okay, anybody have any other conditions or, no? Or objection to any of those conditions? No? All right.
I motion to approve the special permit for 221 Northampton Street, Cumberland Farms, with the 4 aforementioned conditions.
Can I get a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Abstaining? None. All right.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Thank you all.
Thank you. The decision will be sent to you by the end of the week. It's pretty much done, so.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thanks a lot, folks. Good luck.
Yes, I will say that throughout this process, Jessica and her office have been very, very helpful to all of us, and that's why I like to listen.
That's excellent to hear. Thank you for reporting.
Thank you.
Have a good evening,
See you at
folks.
Conservation Commission. Okay.
Not done yet. All right. Moving on, we have no new business, and I understand that the proposed zoning amendment with commercial campgrounds, we're pushing off.
Push it off.
Yeah.
I will, oh, go ahead. You've got other things, I think. You got 2 ZBA
Oh,
things?
there are 2 ZBA requests for comment or opinion, you're welcome to look at them. I would recommend that we take our regular action of no action, but
I want to see what it is.
you should look.
I'll also let you know, well, if you haven't seen the recreational marijuana, the legislature pushed it back, so there's a 6 months additional time that we have to figure out what we're going to do, so that's good. And I think
Sounds
we've
like a
recruited. I
perspective.
think I've
That's
recruited
good.
a replacement
No, that's
for Libby, by the way.
Oh, okay, good.
So hopefully he'll be here at the next meeting. He's getting interviewed by the mayor tomorrow. He sat on the Conservation Commission for many years, and he's a civil engineer.
Excellent.
So I think it'll be a good addition.
Engineering experience. Fabulous.
And Conservation Commission experience too. So
All right.
Engineering,
he's an engineer.
Drives a train.
Love Park.
But
Harry. All right.
Sorry.
Did you both get a chance to look at all these? Anybody want to do
I
anything?
just looked at the front. Give me a chance, will you?
All right. All right. Take your time. As Chet would say, we have plenty of extra time here, so.
I don't want to take his meal time away, you know? It's okay.
I mean, I don't want to say we're not going to take any action if people are going to still look up and want to say something, so I can wait a
Did you get
minute.
this one already, Jim?
I think Jim looked at that one.
You did?
Oh,
Same one?
no.
Okay. Property 3
Are you collecting these? Yes, I am.
Do you want this? This is Jesse's. Are they all who have to do it?
Yes, they all got it in the mail. They all have to do this.
You all have to do your certificate of completion for your conflict of interest law. And Amanda works in the personnel department, so you can just hand it to her.
Do we, I'm sorry, were you done?
No, that's it.
Okay.
She can answer probably
When
more
I
than
went to
can.
start the process,
Yeah.
which I admit to just doing recently, they noted on the front of the site that there's a new thing in the beginning where you can, it'll automatically update you somehow. You don't, and the second option was print the certificate and turn it in.
Print the certificate and turn it in.
Why aren't we like cool and?
It doesn't, I don't know why,
I think that was
but,
for formal credits. I don't think it's for credit with your town.
That's what it
yeah.
I think it's, so I think even if you're doing the first option where you're getting credit for it, that's through like professional requirements, and then you would still print out a copy for your clerk.
You
I
still
think that's
print-
what it is.
I've never had it print out. It doesn't communicate when I press the for credit button.
Yeah.
There's no certificate or anything that prints out, so please print the certificate
We'll
and,
print.
and bring it to me. Somehow, some way.
Some way.
Yes.
Is
Thank you.
by next meeting acceptable?
Oh,
It's fine.
Anything interesting there that we need to
I'm not
address?
in any rush. I still have to
Well,
create a
you don't-
spreadsheet,
you don't know what to
so
think of it,
take
you
your
know?
time.
That's exactly why we generally do nothing, because why would we make an opinion on this when we don't have the applicants in front of us to answer questions or
Exactly.
explain what they're thinking, so.
I think we could help the zoning board of appeals if we knew some of the consequences that were going on with some of these.
But we have enough to do on our own, as do they.
We're not doing nothing right now.
All right, on that note, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Yeah, we're
A
going
motion
home.
to
We could be
adjourn.
doing something on there.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.